There we are.
Hey guys.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Well, if you are just joining us, welcome to another episode of Getting to Unstuck with the three of us here from Whole Human Coaching. My name is Christal Duncan, and I will be kind of our host for today. I will let everyone else introduce themselves. Oh, I'm coming to you live from my office in Toronto, Canada.
And I'm Carol Vickers, and I am joining from the other side of the country. I am in Victoria, BC, and I'm very grateful for daylight savings being done because today it's not dark. I can see blue sky.
But it's like dark at 4 o'clock though, isn't it? Like
That's true. There's always trade-offs, Colin.
Yeah, there are.
That's true. As with everything. You're right.
Yeah.
And I'm Colin Kingsmill, coming to you from Nova Scotia. So we are across Canada and live.
Yeah, it's great. Today, we're going to be talking about living as the real you. And as always, we're going to be having a 20-minute conversation. So we're going to be talking about some of the things that can be indications of us, that this is maybe us. And this could be something that we see coming up in our lives. We're going to be talking about the possibilities around it and some things that you can be doing right from the time that you are finished this conversation with us, that you can begin to use in your own life to help in whatever context it's going to be the most helpful. But when we are talking about living as the real you, I'm wondering, Carol, if you can help us Carol or Colin, actually, if you can help us have some definition around how we're approaching that today.
Sure. So I think the first step, right, is recognizing that you might not be living in integrity or might not be living your real you. And there's some telltale signs that you can look out for, right? So some of them might be things like self-doubt, people pleasing for sure, focusing on other people's needs instead of yours, and maybe having difficulty setting boundaries. It manifests when you begin to compare yourself to others, when perhaps you're not showing your full self, or you're hiding things about who you really are. Other ways that it might show up, you might stay quiet in situations, or you might also be triggered and have a challenge with that. It can show up in things like self-image, lack of humility, which is an interesting one, and really not living for yourself. So kind of on somebody else's path, or living someone else's dream, or I call it putting your eggs in somebody else's basket. So those are some of the telltale signs that you may not be living in full integrity, until ultimately to your full potential, really.
And it's often a niggling thing, isn't it, Colin? It's something that we kind of get this sense that something isn't quite right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to identify to begin with, because we're saying yes to things that we think we should. We're moving ahead in a way that we think we should be doing. And there's just something missing. And that's where I think that idea of integrity comes in. And integrity is one of those kind of loaded words. I don't mean that we're calling into question people's values or their worth, but it is, if we look at it from the definition of integrity is being whole. So if your life is chipping away at your whole you, then you're going to run into challenges. But there are ways for us to, once we recognize it, we can begin to see ways to be able to fix it. So discovering what our boundaries are, stating them clearly to the people that we work with and we live with. And it's that idea of self-care, not being selfish, but taking self-care. And that's carving out time. It's having some moments when it's just for you in a day. And those sometimes are small pieces, aren't they? When you get your morning coffee, what do you do, Christal, in the mornings? Because I know you have a great morning routine.
Yeah, I'm a big morning person, much to the chagrin sometimes of the people that live with me. I'm really a morning person. And my morning routine started back when I was, I've always had a bit of a morning routine, but back when I was also the head of an international charity, I was traveling a lot. And I was, at that time, I was a young single mom of a young child living between two countries. It was really complicated. And I needed to build what I think, Carol, I've heard you refer to them as like little islands of sanity in my life, so that I could, have that place where at least there was something that was, when I came back into that place, even though it was a different place every day, there's a space in me that when I came back, that was a space where I could just quiet myself. And it's evolved and changed and had different focuses over the years. For me now, it's a combination of meditation and reading and of movement. I work out in the mornings in some way, shape, or form, not even the same every day. I could run, do yoga, Pilates, whatever. I am actually curious to kind of just touch back on something that we talked about, and just helping people understand a little bit more about what it means when we say to be in integrity or to be whole. I think that if people come from any kind of a background where those words could be very heavy, they could be very heavy. They could be very heavy. They could have judgment or expectation sitting on them. What would be some helpful ways that we could help people understand what that means, and how they could actually maybe have a strong sense of it?
I think, oh, sorry, Carol.
No, please go ahead.
I think it really does show up in the body, actually. When you, so we mentioned all those things before, like self-doubt and boundaries and comparison and stuff. If you can stay attuned to how that is feeling in your gut, right? Or if you can stay attuned to things like anxiety or depression, or reaching out for coping mechanisms to deal with those pings that you might have in your stomach. I heard somebody yesterday, guys, that I thought was amazing. He said, your body is a loudspeaker. And he was saying, if something is repressed, it will be expressed in illness. And I thought that was so interesting, and it's so connected to this, that the lack of integrity, and it doesn't mean you're a liar, it is you not living who you are, right? Manifests when you're off of that center. It manifests in the body in a plethora of ways. So if you don't recognize what we were talking about before, like staying quiet or being triggered or self-image stuff, if you don't recognize that, start closer to home and just feel your body and what it's telling you. I love this idea about it being a loudspeaker, because I know my own journey of coming to a place of integrity. I remember all of those years, and Carol was my coach for 10 plus years. She remembers them too, where I'm like, you can just feel something's off and it's not quite right. And it's hard, and and you're not in a flow state. So I don't know if I answered your question, but there's all these little hints, right? If you feel it, check it. If you're not in flow, check it. If there's resistance, dig deeper, I think what we're saying is, don't plow through it. Don't keep going in this place of off-centeredness or lack of wholeness or lack of integrity. Listen to your body.
Well, integrity, as we bandy it around in common language, it is something that people think, it's how people will see me, my integrity, I'm being my word. And that is true. But I had a very wise person tell me years and years ago that our first integrity is to ourselves. So we need to be whole for ourselves before we can be whole for anyone else. And really, if we're in that state of not missing anything, if we are that complete sphere, which is what integrity is whole and complete, then we've got the resilience, we've got the resources to be able to be there for other people. Because what we're talking about is that if we're not being our real selves, chances are we're trying to be something for someone else. And that's the other way, is to look at where do we feel that we actually can be our true selves? And ask the question, who do you feel your most authentic self around? So if I was to ask you both that question,
Yeah.
Who is it that makes you feel like you are living yourself when you're with them? Gotta turn my power on here. I'm just about to lose my camera.
I mean, certainly it took me a very, very long time to get to that
Yes.
place, right?
Mhm.
And now it's interesting because once you begin to live in that place,
Mm,
the right people come closer, right?
yes.
And
Yeah.
the ones that weren't move away, and they disappear off into the distance. So, um, I mean, certainly for me, it's close friends,
Mhm.
Yeah.
since we moved back to Canada, and the community that we're creating
Mhm.
here, close to nature and the ocean and things like that. That it almost happens automatically once you redefine those parameters.
Right.
Mhm.
The I think the law of attraction begins to set in,
Yeah.
and yeah.
But let's put it in the context of the workplace,
Mhm.
because what if we can choose our friends? To some degree,
Sure.
we can choose our
Sure.
family.
Mhm.
But what about the workplace? What about, and I'm sure people who are listening, there's like, yeah, I like my friends, but when I go to work,
Yeah.
that's when I can't be
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
What do we do there? What are the tools there?
So this is an interesting this is an interesting thing because we spend so much of our life at work.
We do.
And I have worked in many places where it has not felt safe for me to
Mhm.
actually either speak up to or to advocate for myself, or to even just advocate for what I felt was what was the best choice in that time. And it
Mhm.
is not fun to not feel safe.
Right.
It is not fun to fear judgment, to fear repercussions, to fear that your future may be hanging in the balance on that. And so for me, when you ask that question about, who how do I feel the most whole? Um, I wouldn't have been able to answer this in the past, being back at that place, but now having been spending so much time asking myself difficult questions and learning to be with myself, I would say
Mhm.
that I feel the most whole with me. Like I do feel at home in who I am, and doesn't mean I always like love that, but I do feel at home with that. And but when you are in the workplace and you're not yet in that place, like change is an inside job. Right?
Mhm.
So we cannot necessarily control this. And we know this in all the clients that we coach, and through everything from just making decisions, day-to-day decisions, to crisis management, that you can't choose the circumstances that come to you necessarily. You can't necessarily choose the people that you get tossed into the same boat with. The
Yes.
only thing you can choose is who you're going to be in the middle of it. And that's the
Mhm.
bigger question.
Yeah. And that's where I think what we've talked about with our clients and we talk about together is that personal toolkit,
Mhm.
that ability to be able to pull on certain things.
Yeah.
Colin, what are the pieces of it that people could use?
Right. I mean, when we talk about a personal toolkit, or a leadership toolkit, or really any sort of navigational instrument, right? It it's it, the first part of it is really understanding the destination where you're going, right? So, Crystal,
Mm.
those spaces that you spoke about before that were unsafe,
Mhm.
obviously those weren't the destination for you, right? Because you
No.
pivoted and you got out of
Mhm.
there. So really define, understand the destination that you want to get to from a career perspective. Understand really the elements of your personal brand, your values and your needs,
Mhm.
and with the destination, with a personal brand, with your values and needs defined, you then have one pillar of our whole human coaching tripod, right? Which is how does that fit into the rest of the world? So sense making, right? And we often
Mhm.
counsel people to turn off the news and get informed, right? Get informed in depth with the things you want to understand, as opposed to
Mhm.
afraid of the messaging that comes through a lot on media. And then the other element of that is, of the tripod, right, is understand the business that you're in, and how you mesh with that. How does your personal brand mesh with their personal brand?
Mhm.
And if there's
Mhm.
incongruence, that's a story that you need to listen to, right? That's a
Yes.
story
Yeah.
about, all
Yeah.
right, what is the next chapter for me, right?
Right.
So your own personal toolkit sits on a tripod of informed analysis of the world that's
Mm-hmm.
important to you, and and how you mesh with the current organization that you're in. And
Right.
they may not mesh, and then you begin to design a different future and hammer that out.
Yeah.
So that's really what I think
And
the to do is.
the
Yeah.
power in that I see is in the design, in that
Mhm.
once we have an opportunity to reflect, and that's part of what is involved in that, is when you have those niggling thoughts, oh, something's not right, I'm not fitting in, then you begin to look. And then the beauty is that you begin to shift from looking inward to looking at what's possible.
Yeah. Mhm.
But there is that aspect, first of all, of know yourself.
Mhm.
So there's one tool that you introduced to us this week, Christal, which was about learning more about ourselves.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic free
Mhm.
tool that anybody can use. It's called the high five test, and it's built off of the concept of what are your strengths, but even more than that, it's more like what are your values that your strengths are built on, is
Mm.
how I'd probably define it. I don't know how they define it themselves. It's a little
Mhm.
simple self-test that is incredibly accurate, number one, and really insightful for people,
Mhm.
because it'll take maybe, I don't know, 7 minutes maybe for someone
Yeah.
to do.
Mhm.
I've been having some of my clients do it, and then we've been coaching from the perspective of that, because rather than them using so much energy trying to make up for things that they can't control, that are not their strengths, that are only sucking them dry, that are not filling them with, that they can't be confident in.
Mhm.
Let's, like what you just said, let's shift our perspective. It's like, and a tool like that is like, if I was to hold up a piece of white paper here and there's like one little dot on it,
Mhm.
right? And our natural tendency to describe it would be like, it's a black dot, rather than it's a piece of, it's an open space, it's a blank
Blank
space, and
canvas.
there happens to be that, right?
Yes.
Like, interesting how our perspective is. And so the value of our work, but the value of anybody's work and journey, is the gift you give yourself of building and deciding the perspective and the design that you're going to approach your life
Mhm.
with.
Yes. Because really it is what is special about you
Mhm.
that you are then celebrating,
Yeah.
that gives you a chance to articulate it and look for opportunities to be that in the world
Yes.
and be that with the people around you.
Mhm.
Because it really is that self-expression that gives us the satisfaction.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And when you do go there, right, the possibilities then just really, I think, really expand, because when you are living in integrity or
Mhm.
working in integrity as well, the your gifts begin to show up and
Mhm.
Mhm.
shine and can be seen, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
such a special part of this,
Right.
that I think our society and our culture makes us afraid of discovering those what those
Mhm.
gifts are, or they make a kind of makes us complacent, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
So if we were to leave folks who are listening with one thing that they could do this week
Mhm.
that would help them really establish that sense of self, what would it be?
I would say celebrate something you love about yourself and
Mm.
document it, put it in your journal or your record, whatever works best for you,
Mhm.
and celebrate it every day. Begin,
Yeah.
Yeah.
start that celebration of love for what's inside of you.
Yeah.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
would be mine.
It's like Mel Robbins calls it the high five habit, where you stand
Yes.
in the mirror and you give yourself a high five.
Mhm.
I do that. I
Wow.
find that that's really good. I give myself a high five, or sometimes I look myself in the eye and I tell myself something that I appreciate about who I am.
Mhm. Yeah. I love the idea of going to someone that you know and trust and saying, "What do you love about me?"
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a tricky question to ask.
Yeah, it is.
But when
Yeah.
you hear it reflected in someone that you respect, it really does fill you up
Mhm.
for who you can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof,
That's
lovely.
good. Well, we have come to the end of our time. Thank you both for your time and for
Nice to see
thank
you.
you for joining us. If you're here and you're still here, again, our show here is called Getting to Unstuck, and we are really focused on helping you reclaim your humanity in life and work. And if you have any questions or you have any topics that you would like us to actually touch on, please feel free to comment in below the video and reach out. And we would love to hear feedback from you on what you would like to have us talk about next. Until the next time, have a fantastic day.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.